Hello, and welcome to another edition of Grammy's Protein Kitchen. I've been on a health journey since 2024 and have been able to lose about 70 pounds with the help of a GLP-1 medication. Okay, welcome back to my kitchen. Today, I'm going to redo a video. I did a cottage cheese pasta last week, and for whatever reason, at one point, it shut off on me. So, I'm going to try to do it again. And I may intersperse some of the video from the first time in depending on what's better. So we'll see. If you see me in a different outfit, that was the first video. Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to make a cottage cheese pasta. This is another recipe that I got in my email. This is from Skinny Taste. And I've got water going here for pasta. I have it heating up, so as soon as that gets hot, we'll put the pasta in. It says to use rigatoni. I have stars. We didn't see these before, the Protein Plus stars from Barilla. So they're going to go in when the water starts to boil. So I'm just going to set those back there for now. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cook the turkey. And I'm supposed to turn this on to medium-high heat and let that warm up. It says a pound of turkey. I have 1.3 pounds. So let me open this a while. This was in the freezer. I pulled it out last night and stuck it in the refrigerator. So when that gets warmed up, I'll throw that into that frying pan. I'm going to add some spices to it also. I have a teaspoon and a half of Italian seasoning, about a half of a teaspoon of, I have my pink Himalayan salt. I have a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder, and it says an eighth of a teaspoon of black pepper. So I have that there to go in here. Let me just dump that in. Get that off. Let me put this in the sink and wash my hands quick. Okay, and dry my hands, because we do not want to cross-contaminate with meat, uncooked meat, so that wouldn't be good. And here I'm going to throw my seasoning in here. And I'm supposed to break this up as it's cooking. It's still partially frozen. I can get through it, but I can feel it crunching underneath the thing. So we're going to let that cook up, and I'll be back when the turkey's cooked. Okay, the turkey's still cooking. It's almost done, not quite done. And my water is just about ready to boil. So I'll be able to add the pasta to this. Okay. And I'm going to add all of the pasta. And I'm going to set my timer for 9 minutes. There's still a couple pink spots in the turkey. I'll finish cooking that up. Should just be another minute or two. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Then I need to remove this from the pan, and that'll go in once the sauce is done cooking. So that's why I want to make sure everything is cooked now. And I have a plate here. I'm gonna put the turkey on. Okay. Set that over here. Now, to make the sauce, I'm going to use that same pan, and I'm going to start by putting in about a teaspoon and a half of olive oil. I'm really not measuring it. I'm just throwing that in there. And to that, I'm going to add my onion. I have the half of onion here. And I have my jar of garlic because last week I used fresh garlic. This week I don't have fresh garlic, so I am using this, and it's 4 cloves of garlic. And I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. And we stir that around in there. Okay, and then to this, I'm going to add a can of tomato paste. Now, it said to use a 4.6 ounce tube of tomato paste. It's much cheaper to buy it like this. Last week I measured it out, and I had about a tablespoon left. I froze that and put it in my bag of tomato paste in the freezer. But this week I figured, since I had to open a new jar, I was going to see how it was with the full can of tomato paste instead of just most of it. So I'm putting the full can of tomato paste in here. Yeah, the first time I make a recipe, I usually try to follow it to do what it says to do. Then after that, after I know how it's supposed to be, then I'll improvise. And okay, so I'm going to stir that around. And gathered all the garlic and onion and pepper flakes are all incorporated into there. Okay. Now, to this, we are going to add. Now, what it wants you to do is put this in a blender and blend it all up. I blended my cottage cheese ahead of time. Last week, I just put everything into here and then used my stick blender. I'm not even going to do that because the cottage cheese is blended. I think that's really the only thing that really needs to be chopped up at all. So it says to use 1/3 of a cup of chicken bone broth. I had better than bouillon, which I just added to 1/3 of a cup of water. And you're supposed to deglaze the pan at this point because everything else is out. But like I said, I have the tomato sauce in there. And I'm just going to stir it until it's all incorporated in here. And as far as that goes, I chopped the onions pretty fine, so I think they'll be fine to have little pieces of onion in there. And to this, I'm going to add a cup of cottage cheese. And there's my cottage cheese container. And like I said, I did blend it, so there's no lumps in here. So there's my cup of cottage cheese I'm adding. This is one of the big sources of protein in this. You also have the ground turkey. Okay, stir that in there. And I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of milk. The pasta has about 30 seconds or so yet. So we're timing this pretty good here. Okay. Now it says to reserve a 1/2 cup of pasta water. So I'm going to put that in this measuring cup here and just set that there. And I'm going to drain this in my colander. Okay. Now I'm going to add, turn this down. I can probably turn that off at this point. It's plenty hot. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Had this bag last week. Used the beginning of it. And then we threw some on our pasta. So there should be a half a cup in here. I just want to see if we're going to have enough to put on top of our pasta. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, gonna add that to my pot and stir this around. Now I'm going to put the pasta back in the pot. Well, not back in, it wasn't in this pot before. Not sure if it matters which order you put it in. Last week I put the turkey in first, but I wanted to make sure that the pastas all got coated pretty good. Okay, and now let's add the turkey back in. And then we can decide whether we need any of that pasta water in here. I'm going to put a little bit of it in because it just seems okay. All right. And let me get a little bit out here and put it on the plate. Just use the plate that the turkey was on. And let me get a fork. Okay, and according to the recipe, this is 5 servings. Now I did use 7 servings of pasta, and I used 1 1/3 cup of turkey, 1 1/3 pounds of turkey, and it says to use a pound, so it's probably a little bit more than that. But figuring 6 servings, which is 2 cups, so you could measure it out. 2 cups is a serving. Each serving has 497 calories, 34.5 grams of protein, and 3.5 grams of fiber. So let me give this a taste test. Just as good as it was last week. So there you go. There's the cottage cheese pasta. So thank you for cooking with me today in my kitchen. Please like the video. Helps YouTube push it out to more people. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you won't miss the next video. Thank you.